Motorcade.
Those are shots. They're shooting.
I was covered with blood.
Some people were falling to the ground.
My God, they're going to kill us all.
Tonight, a special 48 hours.
The government has the direct obligation to tell us the truth.
Who killed JFK?
Oswald, the commission tells us, fired 3 shots.
Do you, Oliver Stone, believe that Oswald fired at the president?
No, I don't believe that he did.
I'm just a patsy.
Here is where the shooting occurred, just about middle of the driveway.
Was there a conspiracy?
We know the key individuals involved.
You had the president killed.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's a leap of fantasy.
Kennedy was trying to get Castro, but Castro got him first.
The CIA killed President Kennedy.
The mafia boss, Carlos Marcello, was the mastermind of a plot to kill him.
You glanced over and you could see a little puff of smoke.
You'll hear the theories.
Definitely there were 2 shooters.
And the facts.
I felt a blow right in the middle of my back.
JFK.
I don't know any secret this country can keep for 28 years.
What really happened in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963? An act that took only a few seconds has been dissected by thousands of investigators, scholars, journalists, amateur sleuths, and even Hollywood. Still, that day in Dallas in many ways remains a maze, a tangled mass of contradictions and murky connections. But there are also facts, carefully documented facts. Tonight in this special 48 hours, we build on more than 28 years of reporting on the Kennedy assassination, including 3 separate investigations by CBS News, as we try to ask some of the hard questions that still haunt America. We'll try to separate concrete evidence from conjecture and point out the places where even the experts can't agree. We'll tell you what we know, what we don't know, and what we may never know.
Myself in Paris by saying that I was the man who had accompanied Mrs. Kennedy to Paris. I'm getting that same sensation as I travel around Texas.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. President Kennedy has been shot by a would-be assassin in Dallas, Texas. Governor Connally was also shot.
President Kennedy is on the inside of Parkland Hospital as hundreds of people crowd outside the back door of the emergency room.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 38 minutes ago.
It took only a few seconds to murder the President of the United States. To this day, the most vivid evidence we have of what happened is still this film, the film shot by dress manufacturer Abraham Zapruder. Frightening, shocking though it is, it must be examined as we ask questions about, first, the shooting itself. The Warren Commission, the panel of 7 prominent Americans who investigated the assassination, delivered its findings in 1964. Lee Harvey Oswald fired 3 bullets from a 6th-floor window of the Texas Book Depository. This still stands as the official record of what happened. I'm standing just about where the president's motorcade was when the first bullet struck. Our cameraman is where Abraham Zapruder was standing with his 8mm film camera. There used to be a sign right there, a sign that obscured Zapruder's view of the motorcade at the crucial moment when the president was first hit. But the gunman shooting from the 6th-floor window of the school book depository up there did have a clear view of this same spot. The commission says that same bullet came out President Kennedy's throat and then went through Governor Connally's body and wrists, lodging in his thigh. And that conclusion, the now famous single bullet theory, is perhaps the single most debated piece of evidence in the assassination case. Virtually every conspiracy theory, all the speculation that more than one person was involved, begins with these key questions. How many shots? Where did they come from? Were they from here or here? the grassy knoll area, or here, the stockade fence.
Then I whirled around and fell on the ground, and I told my friend, I said, Gene, those are shots. They're shooting.
From that first terrifying moment, there were dozens of witnesses.
Came from that picket fence. And we noticed the man up in the window.
With conflicting stories.
He was standing right here.
Bang, bang, bang.
I would say bang.
Because the configuration of Dealey Plaza can cause echoes, the number of shots fired was equally confusing.
I heard 3 shots. There's definitely 4 shots. Boom. Boom.
But among the most compelling witnesses were 3 clerks working on the 5th floor of the book depository.
The president was getting close, and it wouldn't be too long before I'd get to see the president.
Then he just turned to go down Elm Street. We heard a shot. We said, I believe they're shooting at the president. And I believe it came from right up over us.
I said, I know it is. I said, because I can hear them. They are above me, and I can hear the shots and everything. And I could even not hear the empty cartridges hitting the floor. I mean, after the shots had been fired.
It's true, witnesses can be wrong. But the story told by the physical evidence is the foundation of a case. In this case, the physical evidence is solid, but where it leads is in dispute. How many shots?
I believe at least 4.
Absolutely 3.
The man on the left is Robert Tannenbaum. He was deputy counsel to the House Select Committee on Assassinations, which reinvestigated the case in the late 1970s.
Remember, truth is our only goal.
David Bellin was assistant counsel to the Warren Commission.
The physical evidence absolutely shows that there were 3 shots fired, 2 of which struck President Kennedy, 1 to the head, 1 in his neck.
I don't know how many cases Mr. Bellin's tried in his career. I've tried hundreds of cases to verdict, and I'm telling you that anything in this case is far from certain. And anybody who's telling the American people it's certain is doing a disservice.
One key area of dispute. If all the shots came from behind, why did the president's head move violently backward after the fatal shot?
Bottom line is you can't predict how a person's going to react when shot. We all at that...
Dr. Michael Baden, former chief medical examiner for the city of New York, is one of 9 doctors who studied the autopsy photos and x-rays for the House Assassinations Committee.
In real life, we have lots of films, lots of people shot on film in Vietnam and other conditions. Sometimes the body goes toward the bullet, sometimes it goes away from the bullet.
Take a look at this.
Some doctors have explained the head movement as a massive neuromuscular reaction.
Oh, my God, a massive neuromuscular reaction. Geez, I better run for the aspirin bottle.
Dr. Cyril Wecht, former coroner of Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, also worked with the House committee.
From the rear and...
Since 1963, 19 doctors have studied the medical evidence for government investigations.
Would have been impossible.
And Wecht is the only one who believes that the fatal shot came from the front.
We have the bullet coming in this direction, according to the Warren Commission, and yet we have the body moving back this way. I doubt that there are many forensic pathologists who would go into a regular murder case and testify in court.
Nevertheless, says David Bellin, ballistic evidence proves that shot came from behind.
We have 2 portions of that bullet that are large enough, complete enough to be identifiable. Well, do we have a gun that we can test those bullet fragments with? Yes, we do. Well, what do we find? We find, yes, that bullet came from that rifle from the school book depository building.
The autopsy of JFK adds to the controversy. Not only was it sloppy, the notes were burned. And, incredibly, the president's brain tissue, kept as evidence for a time, is inexplicably missing, misplaced, or stolen. Now for the single bullet theory. 3 shell casings were found on the 6th floor of the book depository. Only 2 bullets were recovered. One, said the Warren Commission, was the fatal shot that hit the president in the head. Therefore, it concluded, the other bullet must have struck both the president and then Governor of Texas, John Connally.
In all the cases, Dan, that I've been involved in, we have not seen this phenomenon take place. That is, one bullet going through, in this case, the president, and then exiting the president and striking the governor, smashing his rib, fracturing his wrist, and winding up in his thigh, and in some fashion being found miraculously in a hospital, underneath a mat in a stretcher, and not being flattened. We're asking too much from this bullet.
But the fact is that when the bullet passed through President Kennedy's neck, we knew through wounds ballistics tests that it exited that neck at 1,800 feet a second. And the question is, if it didn't hit Governor Connally, where did it go?
And I looked down, and I was covered with blood. And I said, my God, they're going to kill us all.
Among the best witnesses to the shooting,
John Connolly.
My eyes were open. I was conscious.
While he agrees with most of the Warren report, he has told the same story since 1963, that as far as he's concerned, he and the president were not hit by the same bullet.
I heard the shot, and I turned, thinking that the shot had come from back over my right shoulder. And I turned to look in that direction.
And I was in the process of turning to the left to look in the back seat, and I had no more than straightened up. And I felt a blow.
As if someone had just hit me in the back, a sharp blow with a doubled up fist. Again, I heard the first shot. I had time to turn, to try to see what had happened. I was in the process of turning again before I felt the impact of a bullet. And I was lying there and heard the third shot. I assumed that it hit the president.
To me, it's just inconceivable that the first shot that went through his throat, his neck, entered my back. I don't believe that. I never will believe that. They can't run enough tests to make me believe that.
There is another key question. Could anyone fire 3 shots so quickly and hit twice, maybe even 3 times? In 1967, CBS News built a target and test track to match the dimensions of Dealey Plaza. We asked 11 volunteer marksmen to see how quickly they could accurately fire a Mannlicher Carcano, the kind of rifle Oswald owned. They fired at a target moving at the speed of the motorcade. The only similar test done was for the Warren Commission, and it used a stationary target. Using the Zapruder film as a clock, the Warren Commission estimated that Oswald had about 5.6 seconds to fire the 3 shots. One of our volunteers, a weapons engineer, managed 3 hits in slightly less time. Some others were able to hit twice. Not easy, but the point is, it can be done. What about a second gunman? If there was one, he managed to fire and vanish without a trace. No rifle, no shell casings. The only bullet and bullet fragments found anywhere came from Lee Harvey Oswald's rifle, the rifle found on the 6th floor of the book depository. But can you actually prove Oswald killed the president? We'll follow the clues when we come back.
Do you have a cold?
Yes, I do. It feels like the ocean is in my head.
Here's 2 cold medicines. This relieves these 3 symptoms, this 9. Choose one.
9. I have all of those symptoms. Sinus pain, nasal congestion, and I have a scratchy throat.
Here's what you chose. Are you shocked?
Yeah, I am.
Would you try Dristan Cold? How do you feel?
The Dristan really worked.
And for a hot, soothing relief when the flu hits, try new Dristan Cold and Flu.
That's a pretty good imitation. A moment, a conversation. It shouldn't feel any different when you're talking long distance. We think you should be able to call anyone, anywhere, anytime, and still save money. That's why we invented the new AT&T Any Hour Saver Plan. We don't think you should have to make lists or watch clocks. $10 for an hour of calls anytime. Then bonus prices of just 11 cents a minute after 5, and on weekends. Because how you talk is your business. Making it more affordable is ours.
And now, the world arrives in Albertville. Saturday night, the unforgettable opening ceremonies. Sunday night, the breakneck thrills of the men's downhill, in which each man will get one chance to conquer the mountain. And the beauty and drama that is the pairs competition, where grace is showcased and gravity shattered. The Olympic Winter Games come to CBS this weekend. Let the games begin.
So you want to be a teacher? Some of your students might be packing more than lunch. They could be packing guns and teaching you a new lesson, fear.
I regret that guns have become school supplies, and it's a tragedy.
Teachers Under Fire. The story tomorrow on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
The competition is hot as 51 of America's most beautiful women go for the gold. Join hosts Dick Clark and Terry Murphy to see who wins Miss USA Live Friday.
Within minutes of the assassination, Lee Harvey Oswald became the focus of a police manhunt. And 10 months later, the Warren Commission concluded he was the lone gunman who killed John F. Kennedy. But were Dallas police too quick to zero in on Oswald? 48 Hours correspondent Aaron Moriarty picks up the trail of Lee Harvey Oswald, a trail that would end in his own death less than 48 hours after the murder of JFK.
Now
downtown area, code 3 to Elm and Houston with caution. 43 en route.
12:45 p.m.
President involved. First depository store on
Just 15 minutes after President Kennedy was shot.
We're down here at the scene of the current manhunt. More than a score.
The Dallas police were already on the trail of a man.
Attention all squads. Attention all squads. The suspect in the shooting at Elm and Houston is reported to be an unknown white male, approximately 30.
The description of the suspect came from Howard Brennan.
I gave a description of a man in his early 30s wearing light khaki-colored clothing, height 5'9" or 10", weighing 170 pounds.
This is approximately where Howard Brennan was sitting when he says he saw a man with a rifle in a 6th-floor window of the Texas School Book Depository. But critics have always questioned how Brennan could have seen such detail.
We now have several witnesses being taken to.
Although federal and state agents questioned dozens of witnesses, it was Brennan's story that set the police off in the direction of a lone gunman and set them up for nearly 3 decades of criticism.
We've got that building saturated by now. We should know something before long.
By the time police secured the depository building, an employee, Lee Harvey Oswald, had already slipped out.
And I opened the door, and a man got on the bus.
Bus driver Cecil McWater says that man was Oswald. But with the bus mired in traffic, the passenger got off and caught a cab.
Well, he just looked like an ordinary working man. He got in, said he wanted to go to 500 block North Beckley.
3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade.
Well, I was listening, had the television on, listening, trying to find out what happened to President Kennedy when he came in.
Oswald went to his boarding house and left shortly after 1.
When he went out walking fast.
There were no witnesses to the route Oswald took.
This police car stopped. The policeman calmly opened the door.
But sometime before 1:15, Helen Markham saw police officer J.D. Tippett stop Oswald near the corner of 10th and Patton.
The policeman he was the front wheel on the driver's side, and this man shot him in the wink of your eyes.
We have a report that an officer has been involved in a shooting in the 400 block of East 10th.
The intersection is about a mile from Oswald's boarding house, and there are skeptics who question whether Oswald could travel that distance and shoot Officer Tippett in less than 15 minutes.
I could see clearly he had this pistol and...
But other witnesses saw him running from the area.
Position. And he wasn't on a dead run, but a good fast trot.
Suspect last seen running west on Jefferson.
From there, the trail led to a shoe store.
He walked in, he matched description.
Shoe salesman Johnny Brewer followed Oswald into the Texas Theater. And this is where Oswald was finally caught.
Suspect on the shooting of police officer is apprehended and led to the station.
He was carrying the revolver that tests would later show was used to kill Tippett. It was just 2 hours after he left the school book depository. Oswald was arrested for the murder of J.D. Tippett, but when he arrived here at the Dallas police station, officers realized that he was also the employee reported missing from the Texas School Book Depository. And that's when Lee Harvey Oswald became the first and the only suspect in the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
I went down to the police station, visited with Oswald. See, this was a mob scene.
Henry Wade was the Dallas County District Attorney. Investigators questioned Oswald for 12 hours. Critics make a lot of the fact that while the Dallas police questioned Oswald, none of the notes from that questioning exist.
I didn't take any notes because he didn't say anything. He said police brutality and I want my lawyer.
I really don't know what the situation is about. Nobody has told me anything except that I'm accused of murdering a policeman.
Did you have any question then that Oswald was the one who shot President Kennedy?
No.
Why not?
We had plenty of evidence. We had people that saw him up in the window, and we had a gun that was his, we knew.
The gun was Oswald's rifle. Now police look for proof that he pulled the trigger.
They told me on Friday night that they had a palm print identified.
So you were told there was a palm print?
Yes.
But you didn't see it?
I wouldn't know how to identify it if I was looking at it.
I started working with the gun then, 6:30 or something.
Lieutenant Carl Day says that he found Oswald's palm print on the barrel of the rifle.
Did you positively identify it as Oswald's palm
Yes,
print?
I was reasonably sure it was his, but...
Before Day could make a positive match, he says he was ordered to stop and hand the rifle over to the FBI. Oddly enough, the FBI examined the gun one day later and never saw the print.
But if there had been a palm print that you could see, then you'd think that the FBI would be able to find it as well.
I was surprised they didn't find it.
1 week later, Lieutenant Day's print finally reached the FBI, but the contradiction was never resolved.
A policeman hit me.
Friday night, when Oswald was shown to the press, there was an extra face in the crowd, Jack Ruby.
Did it seem strange to you then that Jack Ruby, a club owner, was out there looking at Oswald?
I don't know how he got in.
Did it seem strange at the time?
Yeah.
Chief, do you have any concern for the safety of your prisoner in view of the high feeling among the people of Dallas over the assassination of the president?
No, but precautions necessary. Precautions will be taken, of course.
Sunday morning.
As soon as we walked out here, all the floodlights from the televisions came on.
Officer Jim Lavelle was handcuffed to Lee Harvey Oswald the day he was to be transferred.
We proceeded on down the hallway to through the double door area. I saw Ruby out of the corner of my eye, standing with the pistol at his side. Then he took 2 short steps. Pow, just like that, and it took less than a second for it all to take place.
Did Ruby shoot Oswald to silence him? No one has been able to firmly establish any connection between the two men.
Here comes Oswald. He is ashen and unconscious at this time now being...
When I talked to him, I said, Jack, in all the years that I've known you, I've never known of you doing anything to hurt the police department. But you did not do us any favor when you shot Oswald. He said, Lavelle, all I wanted to do was be a hero. And it looks like I just fouled things up good.
Jack Ruby's act did as much as anything to convince millions of Americans that there was a conspiracy to kill President Kennedy. Lee Harvey Oswald died at Parkland Hospital on Sunday, November 24th, 1963, just 2 days after the president. And buried with Oswald was the testimony he might have given at his trial. The answer to why he was in the 6th floor window of the book depository is a secret he took to his grave. Dan?
Thanks, Sarah. Oswald's life is a baffling puzzle. Does it hold the key to the assassination? Stay with us.
I've got the flu and I ache, but I don't take aspirin anymore, or Tylenol. I choose Advil. Advil stops my headache, reduces fever, and relieves the aches.
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Hey, there's a really big Dollar Day sale going on right now at Ace. Yep, $1 buys any one of these Ace Best Buys. Over 2 dozen for just $1 a piece. Look for Ace really big Dollar Day circulars and come in today. Hey, Ace is the place.
It's about the kind of foods you want today. It's giving you and your budget the break you deserve. And it's treating you just the way you want to be treated. It's what you want. It's what you get at McDonald's today.
What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
Start healing your dry skin from the inside out. Introducing Jergens Advanced Therapy Lotions. New Jergens goes beyond surface healing to actually heal dry skin from the inside out. Jergens penetrates to attract your body's inner moisture, healing your skin from the inside so it stays healthier looking outside. Heal your dry skin from the inside out with new Jergens Advanced Therapy Lotions.
Live from Wichita, the competition is hot as 51 of America's most beautiful women go for the gold.
Let the beauty begin.
It's an unforgettable evening of glamour, pageantry, and excitement.
The next Miss USA.
With a special salute to this year's Olympic athletes.
Ladies, this is the moment.
Find out who will take home the crown as Dick Clark and Terry Murphy host the 1992 Miss USA pageant. Live Friday on CBS.
American medal favorites Christopher Bowman, Bonnie Blair, Dan Jansen, Christy Yamaguchi, and the women's figure skating team. Italy's international playboy and slalom superstar Alberto Tomba. The dangers of downhill. Paula and Tim talk Olympics. The hottest athletes, the coolest stars. The Olympic Winter Games preview, Thursday night on CBS.
A hit.
Gotta be a mob hit.
Pulls Chris and Rita into the deadly world of Goodfellas and big money murder. Silk Stockings, Thursday.
Saturday, #1 ranked Duke battles Shaquille O'Neal and LSU. Sunday, Iowa faces the power of Indiana. This weekend on CBS.
Scene of the crime tonight on CBS Late Night. It's too hot to sleep.
Lee Harvey Oswald was only 24 years old when John F. Kennedy was killed. 24 very strange years. 48 Hours correspondent Phil Jones follows the bizarre twists and turns that eventually brought Lee Harvey Oswald to Dallas's Dealey Plaza.
The life of Lee Harvey Oswald was made to order for those who thrive on mystery and conspiracy.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact,
it was an odyssey that left traces of apparent connections to the CIA, FBI, KGB, Castro, and the mob. Born in New Orleans in 1939, Oswald was raised by his widowed mother, Marguerite.
He was a happy-go-lucky youngster, actually.
He had an above-average IQ, but often skipped school.
He was picked up in the Bronx Zoo while in New York, playing hooky from school.
He dropped out of school in the 10th grade and joined the Marines at 17. At one point, he qualified as a sharpshooter, an average rating for Marines. Oswald served in the Far East, where the super-secret U-2 spy plane was based.
He was an oddball.
Mac Osborne was Oswald's roommate for 9 months.
I really think it was a matter of he felt like he was a little smarter, possibly better than the rest of the people.
He was smart enough to learn a second language, Russian.
He would go into town on his own and come back with his Russian newspapers that he would then sit around with a Russian dictionary and try to translate out of this newspaper, and apparently taught himself to be semi-proficient anyway.
Oswald soon had a chance to use his Russian. He got an early military discharge, supposedly to take care of his ailing mother, but he quietly obtained a passport to travel to the Soviet Union.
How can Lee Harvey Oswald get out of the Marine Corps 3 months ahead of time on a dire need discharge and at the same time be issued a passport to travel? I think my son was sent to Russia.
Did the CIA recruit Oswald while he was in the Marines? In 1975, Dan Rather asked then-director William Colby.
No. We had no contact with Mr. Oswald.
No contact before he went to the Soviet Union?
No contact with him before he went to the Soviet Union, no contact with him after he returned from the Soviet Union, no contact with him while he was in the Soviet Union.
Or was Oswald working for the KGB? The Soviets gave him a visa in near-record time, and Oswald headed straight for the American embassy in Moscow to renounce his citizenship.
He did say that he had information from his Marine Corps service, and that he intended to make available to the Soviet authorities everything that he knew, everything that he had learned.
Soviet officials denied Oswald citizenship and ordered him to leave. A few hours later, Oswald slit his wrist. Then, without explanation, the Soviets agreed to let him stay, not in Moscow, but in faraway Minsk. He was given what Soviets considered a luxurious apartment, a good job at a factory, and a stipend. In April '61, Oswald married a Russian girl, Marina Prusakova. At the same time, he was planning to leave the Soviet Union. Surprisingly, Marina had no trouble getting an exit visa. The State Department paid the Oswalds' way to the U.S. and pressured immigration to let Marina enter the country.
Did anyone with the CIA debrief Oswald when he returned to this country?
No, the CIA did not debrief him.
Oswald returned to Texas with his family, and in the spring of '63, he mail-ordered a revolver, then a rifle, both under an alias, A. Heidel. He asked his wife to take this picture showing off his new arsenal. Marina remembers one night the following month.
He was so pale, nervous, and didn't talk. I said, what happened to him? And he told, I tried to shoot General Walker.
A shot was fired at General Edwin Walker, a prominent right-wing extremist. If Oswald did it, he missed. In any case, he left town quickly. In the spring of '63, Oswald returned to the streets of New Orleans. His associations and activities were puzzling, and in the years since the assassination, suspicion and confusion have only intensified. Oswald tried to join the city's large anti-Castro movement, but a few days later, he made news by handing out pro-Castro leaflets.
Well, I have studied Marxist philosophy, yes, sir, and also other philosophers.
But are you a Marxist? I think you did admit on an earlier radio interview that you consider yourself a Marxist.
Oh, I would very definitely say that I am a Marxist. That is correct.
What about Oswald's other New Orleans associations? Oswald worked out of this office building. So did Guy Bannister, an ex-FBI agent, and David Ferry. Ferry and Bannister were connected to the anti-Castro movement and to organized crime. They were seen with Oswald frequently. 5 months before the assassination, Oswald applied for a new passport to travel to Cuba and Russia. Despite his previous attempt to defect, Oswald received his passport in a single day. The State Department later claimed it was a clerical error. He went to Mexico City to get visas to travel to Cuba and Russia, but both embassies said no. And so, Oswald returned to his wife Marina in Texas, who was staying with a friend, Ruth Payne.
Lee had spent a week unsuccessfully looking for a job in Dallas, and my neighbor and I and Marina were all talking about this difficulty, how hard it was for him, and a third neighbor who was there suggested that there might be an opening at the school book depository.
And, as all of America knows, Lee Harvey Oswald got the job. How could a man with Oswald's past go unnoticed? Well, in fact, the FBI knew Oswald and his Russian wife were in Dallas. An agent questioned Marina just 3 weeks before the Kennedy assassination. The FBI has been criticized for not warning the Secret Service or the Dallas police about Oswald. Listen to Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry on the night of the killing.
We in the police department here did not know he was in Dallas. I understand the FBI did know that he was in Dallas.
There is evidence the FBI later tried to cover up some of what it knew about Oswald in Dallas rather than admit the Bureau might have made a mistake. Dan?
Phil, despite all the allegations, the House Select Committee could not prove that Oswald was an FBI informant. There is also no credible evidence to suggest that the FBI had anything to do with the assassination itself. So if there was a conspiracy, who was behind it? We'll look into that explosive question as 48 Hours continues.
Hey there! I've heard you liquid detergents are doing a great job.
What are you doing in the laundry room?
Heard the news? I can help you guys clean better. Look at these smelly, dirty socks. I'll wash this sock in one of you liquid detergents, this one in the same detergent, plus Arm & Hammer baking soda. You know how well I clean and deodorize. Compare. My sock looks cleaner, smells fresher too. For a cleaner, fresher wash, use me with your liquid. Half a cup is all you need.
First Contact wrote the book on cold medicine, and now a new chapter, Contact Day and Night. Day caplets for non-drowsy cold relief. Night caplets to relieve your symptoms to let you rest. New Contact Day and Night, a whole new chapter in cold relief.
Careful. Lovely.
What do you think?
I think I'd like a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Diet Dr. Pepper tastes more like regular Dr. Pepper. When you want one, there's no stopping the taste.
48 Hours will continue.
This is CBS.
Tonight on Channel 10 News.
If you think Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone, stay tuned tonight. We'll talk with a Philadelphia man who headed the House assassination investigation, who says George Bush and the CIA gave him incorrect information in his search for the truth. A Channel 10 exclusive with a local connection to the Kennedy assassination tonight.
Talk of a mistrial in the Mike Tyson rape case. Has Tyson been saved by the bell? This time a fire bell?
A knockout in this Alabama court, a family outraged over the verdict for the man charged with killing their son.
And what scares you the most? Is it snakes? Flying? How about the dentist? Well, tonight Channel 10 focuses on phobias and how you can overcome them. Find out at 11.
TWA introduces low business flyer fares for business travelers who are really serious about saving money. Fly coast to coast with these low TWA fares on first class, business class, or coach, or connect to 60 cities through TWA's convenient St. Louis hub. You can also take advantage of TWA's low business flyer fares to Europe. All fares are refundable without the usual penalties and restrictions. For reservations, call your travel agent or TWA at 1-800-221-2000.
Stop in the name of love. Be mine.
Sing along to Philadelphia's Oldies station, Oldies 98, WOGL.
If someone told me there was a 90% chance of rain, I'd carry an umbrella. And if someone told me there was a 90% chance lightning would strike this spot, I'd move. Now, if someone told me 90% of the people use the genuine Bella, Pennsylvania Yellow Pages, I'd put an ad in it. The genuine Bella, Pennsylvania Yellow Pages, nor the book and match it, a Bell Atlantic company.
Most Americans don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK without any help. According to the latest CBS News New York Times poll, taken just 2 weeks ago, 3 out of 4 Americans think that there were others involved and that there was an official cover-up to keep the public from learning the truth. The House Assassinations Committee concluded in 1979 that President Kennedy was probably killed as a result of a conspiracy. There's certainly no shortage of theories about who was responsible. 48 Hours correspondent Richard Schlesinger reports.
I was standing on the bridge. I could see the president as they turned the corner.
Ed Hoffman is a deaf mute. He was in Dallas that day.
And I saw a man standing right in this area here.
He's been telling his story for almost 30 years.
I could see him pick up something and bend over the fence. And then I saw a puff of smoke. He started running, and then I saw a brown rifle. I could see the rifle.
But you don't have to have been there to doubt the Warren Commission.
This is a replica. This was used in the movie, in fact.
The JFK Assassination Information Center, just 3 blocks from the scene of the crime, attracts the curious, the skeptical, the obsessed.
Tickets for the bus tour. Tickets for the bus tour.
No crime this century has been studied more closely. And over the years, critics of the lone gunman theory have come up with scores of conspiracy theories. They break down into 3 general groups.
I think the evidence shows that the CIA killed President Kennedy.
Fidel Castro was the mastermind behind the Kennedy assassination.
I think there's a very strong case that Carlos Marcello was the mastermind of a plot to kill him.
Mark Lane became the first conspiracy superstar with his 1966 bestseller, Rush to Judgment, which condemned the Warren Report. He's got a new bestseller now called Plausible Denial, which alleges, he says proves, the assassination was orchestrated by the CIA.
Well, the motive. I suppose we can think of 3 different things. Number 1, John Kennedy was ending the war in Vietnam. Number 2, John Kennedy was involved in a program of rapprochement with Fidel Castro. But above all, John Kennedy said, I'm going to destroy the Central Intelligence Agency.
Why couldn't they have done a better job? Why did they leave so many clues for people like you to pick up on, some of which you described as being almost ridiculously obvious? I mean, are they that bad at conspiracy?
They did an excellent job. The president was killed. The CIA, in September of 1963, set up a charade which would not only blame Lee Harvey Oswald, but would immobilize any commission which was investigating.
Oswald's trip to Mexico City, says Lane, was part of the CIA charade to link Oswald to the KGB and blame the assassination on the Soviets.
The CIA did reach Earl Warren. They told him there's going to be a nuclear war if you don't lie to the American people. Say Oswald did it alone, and let's close this thing down. He said, okay.
That's an explosive charge, one that's been made for years. And now, for the first time on camera, the CIA man who would know has agreed to talk. Richard Helms was director of covert operations at the time of the assassination. He went on to become CIA director.
And I am simply saying this on television because I would like the American public to understand that the CIA was not involved in that assassination, regardless of what anybody says. I tell you, we checked up on it later, not only at the time, but then we checked out when the Warren Commission was sitting and so forth, be sure that nobody had been in Dallas on that particular day.
You did that in November of 1963?
Of course.
Why did you do that? Had anybody accused the CIA at the time?
The place was in an uproar. The country was in an uproar. There was a great concern that this might have been a foreign doing of some kind.
Is that why you checked, or did you check because you thought maybe some of your guys might have been involved?
I did not think that anybody was involved. And don't try and make me say it.
Is there a feeling that there was reason to be scared of the fact that the President of the United States was that mad at the CIA?
We were unhappy, but there's nothing we could do about it. What would you suggest that one do under the circumstances?
Well, you know what people have suggested you did under the circumstances.
What was that?
You had the President killed.
Well, that's ridiculous. That's a leap of fantasy. And Americans who think that way have a child's mentality.
There's little doubt that the CIA under Kennedy did try to kill Fidel Castro, and that's at the heart of a second theory, that Castro ordered the president's murder.
Kennedy was trying to get Castro, but Castro got him first.
Michael Kurtz teaches history at Southeast Louisiana University. He's written a book fingering Castro.
The CIA had indeed contracted with the Mafia to use hitmen to kill him.
Well, Castro is a wily man. He must have known, if he was behind this, what the consequences would be. Why would he take that risk?
You're quite right. There was a great risk of retaliation by the U.S. of a full-scale military invasion of Cuba and overthrow of him, but Castro, in my opinion, came down to the most basic of human motives, survival.
In fact, this was President Lyndon Johnson's theory. Aides say he was talking about Castro in this 1969 interview with Walter Cronkite.
I can't honestly say that I've ever been completely relieved of the fact that there might have been international connections.
Why would Fidel Castro risk touching off a war against his island in order to make Lyndon Johnson president of the United States? That's bizarre.
Investigative reporter Jonathan Whitney insists all the evidence points to Carlos Marcello, the boss of the New Orleans mob and a prime target of Attorney General Robert Kennedy.
Carlos Marcello was a particular character who had an overwhelming motive for wanting Kennedy dead, which was that the Kennedys had almost killed him and were in the process of destroying his vast, very profitable commercial empire. They were bringing a second deportation order against him, and the hearing commenced on November 22nd, the day of the assassination. Lee Oswald was working with two people who were at Carlos Marcello's right hand. David Ferry, Marcello's personal pilot, Guy Bannister, who was the investigator for the defense of Carlos Marcello in the deportation hearing, and Jack Ruby, who the Warren Commission led you to believe was some minor nightclub owner, was in fact a major mafia figure. They weren't working for Fidel Castro. There's no evidence that they were. There's no evidence that they were working for the CIA. There's no evidence that they were working for any earthly person other than Carlos Marcello.
About the only thing most critics have in common, besides an absolute conviction the Warren report is wrong, is an absolute conviction their theory is right. Any crime, if it's studied for as many years by as many people, would probably generate as many theories. So how will this all end? Almost all the critics demand another investigation. But if another probe concludes one of the theories is the truth, chances are there will still be conspiracy theorists convinced that the cover-up is continuing. Dan?
Richard Schlesinger, thanks. When we come back, You'll meet a man who says Oswald was just a patsy and blames the government for killing JFK. Is it reality or only a movie?
Next, American women could be heading for a clean sweep.
I was afraid to go to the doctor. I didn't want to hear that I might have an ulcer, but I just couldn't ignore my stomach. You can imagine how relieved I was when my doctor said Mylanta. He told me it wasn't an ulcer. It was indigestion. And indigestion like mine needed a strong medicine.
Mylanta is strong medicine, strongly recommended. In fact, Mylanta is the antacid doctors recommend most.
My doctor said Mylanta.
The Olympics are nearly here. Time to keep an eye on 3 Americans in ladies figure skating. Watch for the grace of Christy Yamaguchi, the athleticism of Tanya Harding, and the artistry of Nancy Kerrigan. Each one may win a medal at Albert.
Mylanta is the sponsor of the Winter Olympics broadcast on CBS.
I'll borrow my mother's earrings, her scarf, but my mother's tampons. No way! I found new Ultimates, cardboard applicator tampons from Playtex. Great protection, plus a curved cardboard applicator. Ultimates. It's not your mother's tampon. Choose to be your mother's beautiful, salon beautiful.
From Helene Curtis Salon Selective 6 salon shampoos, 6 conditioners. Choose your combination and feel like you just stepped out of a salon.
They won't work in this heat.
They say no AC, no show.
Say you need something set overnight.
Those prima donnas.
There are a few companies you can call. Parts on its way. But say you need it by 10:30 a.m. Guaranteed, there are 2. But only one is so efficient and reliable. They get it there on time for far less. It's showtime. Which is why to some people, there is only one, UPS.
Just when they thought it was safe to go out and play.
You just gotta flaunt this relationship right in my face, don't Leave her alone.
A man obsessed with revenge
We can't pretend this isn't happening.
is going to ruin someone's day.
Have a nice lunch. Could be your last.
A shot that will change Knots Landing forever. Thursday.
America's favorite pair, Carla Urbanski and Rocky Marble, practice today at the Olympic Ice Hall. Only 3 days until the Olympics come to CBS.
More than a third of Americans alive today weren't even born when John Kennedy was shot. Our poll shows that younger Americans are even more skeptical than their elders that Oswald acted alone. Small wonder that filmmaker Oliver Stone has found a receptive audience for his blend of fact and fiction on film. JFK, the movie, has angered many, but it's also sparked renewed interest and debate about what happened more than 28 years ago.
The shocking assassination of a president.
John F. Kennedy's murder was probably one of the most terrible moments in the history of our country.
The outrageous murder of the suspect.
Oswald's been shot.
The total obsession of a district attorney.
Who killed the president?
Oh, man! I have to spell it out for me, Mr. Garrison.
I think it's a fascinating piece of propaganda.
Y'all got to start thinking on a different level, like the CIA does.
Simply because it leaves the impression that the federal government itself and major elements of the government were involved in the assassination of an American president. And I think that's evil because I don't think that happened. I don't think it could have happened.
I say let justice be done or the heavens fall.
JFK.
The movie is based on New Orleans prosecutor Jim Garrison's own investigation of the murder.
We know the key individuals involved, and we're in the process of developing evidence now.
Garrison's investigation culminated with the 1969 trial of Clay Shaw, a socially prominent businessman.
I am completely innocent of any such charges.
Garrison tried to prove that Shaw was part of a conspiracy to kill President Kennedy.
I have not conspired with anyone at any time or any place to murder our late and esteemed President John F. Kennedy or any other individual.
Garrison failed to convince the jury. They deliberated less than an hour before returning a not guilty verdict. Shaw died in 1974.
The cabinet was out of the country to get their perceptions out of the way.
In the film JFK, Stone vindicates Garrison by showing a Washington meeting with a Mr. X, a mysterious government official who confirms the theories Garrison could not prove in real life. X is based on a real person, Stone says, but the meeting never took place.
Nothing was left to chance. He could not be allowed to escape alive.
The movie ends with a dedication to the young, in whose spirit the search for truth marches on.
My pleasure to introduce Oliver Stone.
Harvard University.
You write a movie about truth, and I think it's therefore incumbent upon you to tell us right now specifically what is not true in the movie. There's a big mix of fact and fiction.
You're misrepresenting my statement. I have never, ever said this film was true. You will see that when we go to speculation, it says maybe.
He had his palm print on the weapon. For all we know, it could have been taken off Oswald in the morgue. There's no chain of evidence.
Possibly, if.
Just maybe Oswald is exactly what he said he was. A patsy.
I cannot put a prescription drug label beneath each scene and say this is actually true and this is a speculation.
This movie was always a hypothesis.
Time me.
Fact plus speculation.
Go.
I could argue that the Warren Commission is also fact plus speculation.
I consider that myth, as I consider my movie counter-myth. I think that ultimately history will bear out that my movie is probably closer to reality than their movie.
CIA and the Mafia working together, trying to whack out the beard, mutual interest. They've been doing it for years. There's more to this than you could dream.
The film outlines two possible conspiracies. One is the killing of Kennedy, that it was done by elements of the government in the CIA, military.
This was a military-style ambush from start to finish. This was a coup d'etat with Lyndon Johnson waiting in the wings.
And that there's the second conspiracy that occurred was a cover-up.
Man, it's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.
You do or do not believe that Oswald fired at the president that day?
I imply that Oswald is what he said he was, a patsy.
Why would one believe that Robert Kennedy, knowing what he was to John F. Kennedy, would ever allow a conspiracy such as you put forward in the film not to be exposed?
What a lot of other people have said, that he was in shock and grief and mourning for his brother. He was in hardly any condition to even think about the implications of the crime. He was grieving.
I disagree with that totally and completely. I think Bobby Kennedy was shocked by the assassination. There's no question about it. He would have investigated anyone, anywhere, under any circumstances if he thought there was a conspiracy involving the assassination of his brother.
I don't understand why you include the press as either conspirators or accomplices to the conspiracy.
Dan, when the House report came out implying that there was a probable conspiracy in the murder of both Kennedy and King, why weren't you running around trying to dig into the case again? I didn't see you, rush out there and look at some of these 36 discrepancies that we present in our movie.
It's on the record, 1964, late 1960s, 1975, again in the late 1970s, and again in the 80s. The fact that we could not come to answers, that we didn't find solutions, you seem to take as proof positive that somehow that we have knowingly or unknowingly been part of the conspiracy.
I said that there was a conspiracy to cover it up. It does not mean that there was malice aforethought.
In the film, you have Jim Garrison going to Washington, meeting Mr. X, and Mr. X tells him in front of the Lincoln Memorial about this plot to kill Kennedy.
Why was Kennedy killed? Who benefited? Who has the power to cover it up? Who?
But Garrison never went to Washington.
I've said that too.
He never spoke to this man.
I have to take dramatic license. The facts can only take us so far in this case.
I'm already telling my 8-year-old son to keep himself physically fit.
The dedication to the young is in the hopes that the young will go back into this case and find the truth, or make the government release the files, all the files, and at least so that we can come to terms with a tragedy that has affected the last 28 years of our life and our generation.
The files of the House Select Committee on Assassinations, 1979, were supposed to be sealed until the year 2029. Now, partly as a result of the uproar over Stone's film, Congress may well vote to open them, and there are calls for the government to unseal all its secret files on the Kennedy case.
Next, from Channel 10 News.
A Channel 10 exclusive with a local connection to the Kennedy assassination. The man who headed the House investigation says you weren't given the whole story.
A wild scene in this courtroom as a family erupts after a verdict for the man accused of killing their son.
And if you're scared of snakes flying or anything else, we'll tell you how to get over your phobia. Next on the Channel 10 News.
Gillette presents Sensor, the system, the technology that will change the way you shave forever. Sensor, twin blades set on springs to read your face and respond. Independent suspension to sense and adjust to every curve of your face. No other razor comes close. Gillette Sensor, for the best shave a man can get.
Pain from just one sensitive tooth can start the domino effect. Pain can make you stop brushing, lead to plaque buildup, gingivitis, periodontal disease, even tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect.
Do you get diarrhea too?
Yes, I do get diarrhea, and what I take is kaopectate. I have no time to be sick. Kaopectate stops the symptoms fast. It gets rid of the diarrhea. Kaopectate works every time.
28 years ago, we said our goodbyes to John F. Kennedy. Those 28 years have not healed all the wounds, have not buried all the doubts, have not erased all the questions and contradictions. Just as we cannot know where John Kennedy would have led us in life, so we may never know enough to answer all questions about his death. We do know a lot, and there is much to support the Warren Commission's conclusions. But unanswered questions also abound. Not all of the conspiracy theories are ridiculous. And however disturbing, conspiracy theories also are comforting in a way. That is one reason they thrive. They explain the inexplicable, neatly tie up the loose ends. But a reporter cannot find refuge there. Facts, hard evidence, are the journalist's guide. For nearly 30 years now, we have independently looked for plotters and accomplices in the shadows behind Lee Harvey Oswald. So far, we have not found them. What we do know is that uncertainty, all the lingering doubts, may be as difficult for Americans to accept as the assassination itself. Some of the burning questions about the death of John F. Kennedy burn with an eternal flame. I'm Dan Rather. 48 Hours will return 3 weeks from tonight, after the Winter Olympics. Good night.
I'm Herb Clark with less wind. The February chill is easier to take, but the cold will be back for the weekend. The forecast next on Channel 10 News.
And there's more on Channel 10. When a wealthy marine biologist is murdered, the suspects seem more carnivorous than the sharks. On Scene of the Crime.
For a transcript, send $4 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203.
The competition is hot as 51 of America's most beautiful women go for the gold. Join hosts Dick Clark and Terry Murphy to see who wins Miss USA Live Friday.
This is CBS.